Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtuprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So today we are starting the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So as we discussed last time, the glories of Bhagavad Gita. So this is all mentioned in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita as it is, the book that we're going to follow. So I did send a list of important verses of Bhagavad Gita. So my request is if we can memorize, if not all, some of those verses, that'll be great, especially this first verse. And I'll chant the verse, and at least you will follow how to chant. I'm pretty sure most of you know how to chant these verses, but if youngsters were here who don't have any touch of Sanskrit, they would know. So anyway, let's start. So Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Text number 1 onwards. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre Samveta Yuyutsava Mamakaha Pandavasheva Kimakurvat Sanjaya. So to tell you little about Sanskrit grammar. So when I broke it, or at least in when you study Bhagavad Gita of ISKCON, so in English transliteration, when they have written the shloka, they've already made the break somewhere. So what is the rule for that? So there are rules for everything in Sanskrit. So when I said Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre, so I gave a pause. It's in the first line only. And then Samveta Yuyutsava. So where is that pause? So that actually happens if it is a 2-line verse. Of course, it has some other technical name, but we'll just go with the 2-line verse. If it is a 2-line, so wherever there are 8 complete akshars, 8 complete syllables, that's where the break is. So if we look at this verse, Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre, Dhamma Kshatra 4, Kara Kshatra 8. So similarly, next one, Samveta Yuyutsava, Samavata 4, Ya, and since Ta is half, so we don't count, Sava, so 8. And similarly, if we go to the next line, Mamakaha Pandavascheva, Mamaka 3, Pa and Ana is half, so don't count, Da 5, Va, Cha, Va, Sha is half, so 8. Kim Akurvat Sanjay. Ka ma ka va ta 5 sa ja ya. Na is half, so we don't count that. So again, so this is very important to understand. The whole Bhagavad Gita, all the scriptures, even Bhagavatam, any of the scripture that you study, this is a rule to follow. So Dhritarashtra also, he is sitting in his Hastinapur on his throne. And he's speaking, this is the only verse he spoke, but he spoke according to the rule of Sanskrit. So another thing to learn here, Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre Samveta Yuyutsava. So let's go to the translation. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu, Samveta Mamakaha Pandavascheva. So my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled where? In the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, Yuyutsava. What did they do? So other things to learn. Just from this shloka, it not only it's a starting of Bhagavad Gita, but many things get cleared from this shloka. Many times, if we study other editions of Bhagavad Gita, they will say oh, Kurukshetra is our body and the Pandavas are five senses, Krishna is mind, and Kauravas are 100 wrong desires and this and that. Where? Where does it say that? It's the first shloka of Bhagavad Gita. It says, what is Kurukshetra? It's a place of pilgrimage. Is our body a place of pilgrimage? No. And he is clearly saying, my sons and the sons of Pandu. He did not say the senses or this or that. So when people start giving the interpretations to Bhagavad Gita, to Kurukshetra, to Pandavas, to Krishna, to Kauravas, then they completely lose the meaning. Completely. And they, as Prabhupada gets very angry at them, they have no right to even comment on Bhagavad Gita. Actually, they don't. This is our holy scripture. How can anybody just give some interpretation, mundane interpretation, and think, oh, I have written a commentary on Bhagavad Gita? Doesn't make sense at all. It is clear here. Dhritarashtra, this is what he's asking. O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight. So they are not assembled at the place of pilgrimage, Dharmakshetra, for some Tirtha Yatra. They are assembled desiring to fight. What did they do? Again, many things to learn. The Sanjay was a charioteer of Dhritarashtra. So when it was settled that there will be war between Pandavas and Kauravas, Vyasadeva came to Hastinapur, and he told Dhritarashtra that unfortunately this war is going to happen, but Dhritarashtra himself was not going to participate in the war because he was blind. So Vyasadeva told him that I can give you eyes with which to see the war. While sitting in Hastinapur, he would have been able to see what's happening in Kurukshetra. So we think this TV technology is new. It was existing at that time also. But obviously it was not through the cables, it was through the divine vision that Vyasadeva was going to give him. But Dhritarashtra refused. He said, I never saw all these boys when they were little, when they were babies, and when they were adults or young. Now, why would I want to see them fighting and dying? I don't want to see, I cannot see them. So rather give this divine vision to Sanjay, my charioteer, because he's always with me and he will describe the war to me. But then here the question is, Dhritarashtra said, what did they do? He did not say, he did not ask, what are they doing? Very technical point to understand. Actually, what had happened when the war started, Sanjay was in the war. Dhritarashtra had sent him to Kurukshetra to go participate. And Yudhishthira Maharaj had told all his warriors, do not touch Sanjay, do not harm him, do not injure him, do not kill him. Why? Because he is a chariot driver of my uncle and he has to go back and give him all the knowledge, all the message. And as we know, the war of Mahabharata lasted 18 days. And it was 9th day when Arjun had put Bhishma on the bed of arrows. So 9th day, when Sanjay saw that Bhishma is fallen, he is now on the bed of arrows and there is no way we can win this war, he came back to Hastinapur. So he came back, he gave the message to Dhritarashtra, and next morning, Dhritarashtra asked him this question. So that is why it is, if we read it again, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? So he wants to know from the beginning, what did they do? And there are many other stories we'll cover slowly. So in the commentary by Srila Prabhupada, it's written, Bhagavad Gita is a widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, glorification of the Gita. There it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita in that line of disciplic succession without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of the Vedic wisdom and all scriptures of the world. That's Prabhupada's very bold statement. If one is fortunate enough to understand Bhagavad Gita in the line of disciplic succession, means without giving his own interpretation or without listening to somebody who has given his interpretations. In the line of disciplic succession, this we discussed last time, without motivated, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom. This is so important, such an important scripture, Bhagavad Gita. One will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the readers will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is a specific standard of the Gita. It's a perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. See, as a member of ISKCON and as a preacher or budding preacher, so we come across many people all over when we are preaching the message. And I came across a person who said, I only study Vedas, I don't study Mahabharata. And I asked him, why don't you study Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna himself. It is the essence of all the scriptures, you will find. He said, no, I don't study Bhagavad Gita because it is part of Mahabharata, and Mahabharata has been manipulated, and Bhagavad Gita is also manipulated. So this is, and Mahabharata, he said, we don't keep Mahabharata at home. I said, and because there will be fight if you keep Mahabharata at home. I said, this is all nonsense. These are all scriptures. I said, there will be fight at home if you keep Bhagavad Gita and don't study it and don't follow it. The problem is we keep all the scriptures at home, but don't study it. And then definitely, just like we have mundane life, materialistic life, and we have issues at home, at work, in business, or in the society, in the community, in our relations, we'll always have issues. But if we follow the teachings, and teachings, we'll study what kind of teachings are given, then there will not be problems anywhere in our lives. The topics discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjay, as described in the Mahabharata, form the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage from the time immemorial of the Vedic age. It was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on this planet for the guidance of mankind. The word Dharmkshetra, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary, Sanjay, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother, Pandu, were assembled in the field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want a compromise between the cousins and the brothers, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield, because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as a place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven. So this is how important Kurukshetra is, not just walls. Kurukshetra is a place of pilgrimage, is a dharam kshetra. Means so many rituals, so many yajnas have been performed over there. It is also mentioned after Parshuramji killed Kshatriyas 21 times all over the world. He would bring their blood, and there's a lake called Brahm Sarovar in Kurukshetra. He filled that lake with the blood of the Kshatriyas, and he washed his axe over there. Also, some place, maybe not this kalpa, because Brahmaji is every day, there could be change in the scene. Some place it is mentioned that Bali Maharaj, when he performed his yajna, that was performed at Kurukshetra, where Vamandev came. And even before this battle of Mahabharat at Kurukshetra, at the time of solar eclipse, there was one solar eclipse happened, and Krishna came from Dwarka with all the soldiers, all the warriors to take a dip at Brahm Sarovar. And Pandavas and Kauravas, they all went from Hastinapur and Indraprastha to Kurukshetra. It is such a holy place. And Brajvasis, including Srimati Radharani, Gopis, everybody, Nanda Baba, Yashoda Maya, they all went to Kurukshetra because they heard that Krishna is coming and they wanted to meet Krishna. So they went from Vrindavan. So it's such a holy place. And so somehow that was chosen to be the place where this great battle is going to take place. So Dhritarashtra was happy. Why? Because he was thinking that this place, Kurukshetra, so that's why he named it Dharamkshetra Kurukshetra. He called it Dharamkshetra because he was hoping that this place would have a positive influence on the minds of Pandavas, because he knew his sons were not on the right side, but Pandavas were on the side of Dharma. So he was hoping that it would have positive influence, and Arjun and Yudhishthir, they would cease to fight. They would say, no, we don't want to fight. Just like if we go to Tirtha Yatra, so we leave all our vices over there. We don't want to do anything nonsense over there. So similarly, Dhritarashtra, this was his hope against hope actually. That no, I hope Arjun and Yudhishthir, they won't fight. I hope they are in the Dharam Kshetra, so they will have positive effect on them and they won't fight. He had no such hope from Duryodhana and party. So Prabhupada further asks, Prabhupada further says, Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary Sanjay, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of younger brother were assembled in that place of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want a compromise between the cousins and brothers, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because a battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of holy place on the outcome of the battle. He didn't want this holy place to have the influence on his sons in a negative way. He knew very well that this would influence Arjun and the sons of Pandu favorably. Still, by nature, they were all virtuous. Because by nature, they were all virtuous. Sanjay was a student of Vyasadeva, and therefore, by the mercy of Vyas, Sanjay was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. Also, many times people ask this question. Those who have doubts, they ask these questions. That who wrote Bhagavad Gita? Okay, Krishna spoke it to Arjuna. Vyasadeva was not sitting in the battlefield. And how could he write sitting in his own ashram? If Vyasadeva can give eyes, divine eyes to Sanjay for him to be able to see what is happening in Kurukshetra while sitting in Hastinapur, don't we think Vyasadeva had the powers to listen to each and every word that Krishna and Arjuna is speaking about, talking to each other, and write it down while sitting in his ashram in Badrinath, Badrika ashram? He had all the capabilities. He is a literary incarnation of Krishna who came to give these scriptures. Because before this battle happened towards the end of Dwapar Yuga. So until that time, the scriptures were not given in written form. The Guru used to teach the students orally, and students were so sharp, they would remember everything. And they would teach their students further down. So nothing needed to be penned down or written down. It was Vyasadeva who saw in Kali Yuga what is going to happen. We all know what are our limitations. We don't remember anything. That's why we now have smartphones. Because people are becoming dull, so they need smartphones. We don't even remember the phone numbers of our relatives or friends. Everything is in the smartphone. To do any little calculations, we need calculators. Earlier, when we were studying, we didn't have calculators. And we used to do by hand and we would memorize so many things. But now the smartphones are there, so people are getting dull. So, and this is only 5,000 years into Kali Yuga. What will happen towards the middle or end of Kali Yuga? So that's why Vyasadeva had to put down everything in writing. And that is the reason he appeared. That's the main reason he came on earth. So Dhritarashtra asked Sanjay about the situation on the battlefield. Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family, but Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. So they all belong to actually Kurus. Kuru Maharaj was a great king in that lineage. But he said, okay, my sons and the sons of Pandu, they were all Kurus originally, but now they became Pandavas. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in his relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out. So it is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious field of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Shri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son, Duryodhan, and others would be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons headed by Yudhishthira would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharmkshetre and Kurukshetre, apart from their historical and Vedic importance. So Dharmkshetra, Kshetra also means field or paddy field. So Krishna, when he explains the reason of his appearance, he says, I come to annihilate the demons and protect the devotees. So, like Prabhupada gives the example, paddy field. So all the weeds are taken out, unnecessary plants. So weeds are taken out before we plant the real thing. So to plant dharma, so adharmic forces or adharmic individuals, they have to be taken out. So Duryodhana and Padi represents those adharmic weeds. So that is also one of the reasons it's called Kshetra, Kurukshetra, or Dharma Kshetra. So the Dharmaraj, Yudhishthira Maharaj, will be established on the throne. And it is also mentioned in Mahabharata how many people died in that battlefield. 640 million. Because the armies came from all over the world. 64 crore. So sometimes people again have doubts. How can Kurukshetra, if you have been there, it's a small place. It's a small town. It's not very big. And that tree is still there, which is called, the place called Jyotisar. And that tree is still there, or the roots of that tree has grown into a new tree, under which Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So the government has made it a nice place. There is a little lake over there, and light and sound show is there in the evening. They turn it on, and it's a nice place they have made. So if we look at whole city of Kurukshetra and maybe some other neighboring places, it's not a huge place for 64 crore, 640 million people to come and fight. And these people were not just foot soldiers or infantry. They had chariots, they had elephants, they had horses, and there need to be a place where they could run and fight. It wasn't like they were in a cramped up room. Okay, we'll fight right here. No. And then there were tents for everybody to come in the evening and take rest. And there were hospitals in the tents for the injured. There were cooking places for such a huge army on both sides. So how is it possible? They all to assemble in one little place called Kurukshetra. But this is where Krishna's powers come in. If he wants, he can put the whole population of the entire universe, not even of Earth, entire universe, on his tip of his thumb. And everybody would still have plenty of room to maneuver around. Because if we read in Bhagavatam, now the scriptures, they don't tell lies. That's the beauty. So that's why we always quote scriptures. This scripture says that scripture says that. So when we study Bhagavatam and there's a description of Dwarka, where Krishna lived. So Dwarka, again, if we have been to Dwarka, if you go to Dwarka, it's a very small place, geographically. Maybe since you guys are related to Jagannath, it's as small as Jagannath Puri. I don't want to call small for Jagannath Puri. Lord Jagannath might get upset with me, but geographically speaking, otherwise, Lord Jagannath is unlimited and his place is also unlimited. But geographically speaking, Dwarka is also a very small place. But if we look at the description in Srimad Bhagavatam of Dwarka, just look at Krishna. Krishna had 16,108 queens. And they all had wonderful, huge, multi-storied palaces in Dwarka. 16,108 palaces. Huge palaces. And through all these queens, Krishna alone had 10 sons and 1 daughter. So again, everybody had their own places. And to teach all these many sons and daughters of Krishna, there were millions and millions of teachers. Maharaj Ugrasen, it is mentioned in Bhagavad, Maharaj Ugrasen, his personal attendants were 1 trillion, not billion, trillion. That was Maharaj Ugrasen's opulence. And now this is only Krishna and Ugrasen we are talking. There were Balramji, there were other ministers, friends, and they were definitely soldiers, their families, generals, the shopkeepers, and so on and so forth. And everybody was going in their chariots, and there were other palaces, marketplaces, gardens, parks, so many roads. And there is no mention in Bhagavatam of any chariot accidents. So they were all moving freely on the roads. So how big a place that must be. But if you look at Dwarka, it looks like a very small place. How can so many people fit in there? So this is why Krishna is known as Yogeshwara. He can do anything. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if he wanted to assemble all these 640 million people in Kurukshetra, and because this was one of the reasons he appears is Paritrana Sadhunam, Vinashaya cha Dushkritam. So he assembled all of them over there and he got them finished. Otherwise, he would have to go all over the world to kill all these demons, but he did not. And he gave the credit to Arjuna. So this is little introduction to Bhagavad Gita, the setting of the scene. And as we go along, we'll discuss more stories. And Bhagavad Gita it's an Upanishad. Upanishad means lots of philosophy. So first chapter is lots of stories are there. So wait till we get to the philosophy. So I hope you don't run away. So text 2. Sanjay Vacha Drishtva tu Pandavanikam Vyudam Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upsangamya Raja Vachnam Abravit. So before I take up this verse, should I wait for any questions or comments after every verse, or should I give the time in the end for you to ask questions?
I think it will be better to wait till the end, Prabhuji, to me. We can ask question towards the end.
Okay, that's fine. But this is how we follow in my other Bhagavatam class. I just wanted to make sure. So, second verse, Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in the military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage, and Sanjay could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjay wanted, therefore, to encourage the despondent king and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjay therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhan, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief. See again, the shloka here says, King Duryodhan went to his teacher. He did not say King Duryodhan is going to his teacher, because this is all in the past. So Duryodhan went to his commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhan is mentioned as a king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician. But Duryodhan's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Now, many things are there politically. Sanjay said King Duryodhan, just to give Dhritarashtra some solace in his heart. Yes, he is king, because he always wanted Duryodhan to be king. But then why did Duryodhan go to Dronacharya? Commander-in-chief was Bhishma Pitama. Why Duryodhan went to Dronacharya? There is a reason. Duryodhan was, if we see that serial Mahabharata made by B.R. Chopra, he did a wonderful job. Wonderful job. But they all portray Duryodhan as some kind of a brat, a spoiled brat. Duryodhan, yeah, he was spoiled, but he was a big politician. And he knew the art of administration, ruling. He knew it very well. So why did Duryodhan go to Dronacharya, not Bhishma Pitama? He went to Dronacharya because Dronacharya is a Brahman and Bhishma is a Kshatriya. So if he had gone to Bhishma, Dronacharya could have felt bad. That why is he going to Kshatriya? Kshatriyas are below me. Now Dronacharya, he is a Brahman, he is a teacher of Duryodhan. So Duryodhan went to Dronacharya to tell him how, look at the military arrangement that your disciples have made. So this is lots of politics goes on, and Mahabharata is full of politics. But here, politics is there, everything is there, but the problem is Krishna is on the other side, and the Pandavas are devotees of Krishna. And Krishna, as we have studied also in Mahabharata, seen in the serial, how he protected Pandavas throughout. So no matter how big politically motivated we are, or how big politicians, or how cunning and all the schemes we can do, in front of Krishna, nothing works. Maybe for some time it will work, but ultimately we have to lose. So it's better to become devotees of Krishna. So here Duryodhan, he could not disguise the fear he felt. Although on the Kaurav side there were 11 Akshohini Sena, and on the Pandav side there were only 7 Akshohini Sena. But still Duryodhan was afraid when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Text 3. Pashyatam Pandu Putranam. See, now if we didn't know this rule of Sanskrit grammar, where to break, and the ISKCON devotees have done a good job in English transliteration, they have broken the words. But now, if you look at just that word, Pandu Putranam Acharya, now where to break? So we know the rule of 8 syllables. So Pashyatam Pandu Putranam. So that's where the break is. Then Acharya Mahatim Chamu Vyudam Drupad Putrena Tav Shishena Dhimata. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad. Duryodhan, a great diplomat, wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya, the great Brahman commander-in-chief. Dronacharya had some political quarrel with King Drupad, the father of Draupadi, who was Arjuna's wife. As a result of this quarrel, Drupad performed a great sacrifice, by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. Dronacharya knew this perfectly well, and yet as a liberal Brahman, he did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets with the son, when the son of Drupad, Drishtadyumna, was entrusted to him for military education. Now on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Drishtadyumna took the side of the Pandavas, and it was he who arranged for the military phalanx after having learned the art from Dronacharya. Duryodhan pointed out this mistake of Dronacharya so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. By this, he wanted to point out also that he should not be similarly lenient in battle against the Pandavas, who were also Dronacharya's affectionate students. Arjun especially was his most affectionate and brilliant student. Duryodhan also wanted that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat. Also warned that such leniency. Okay, now this shloka again. He goes to Dronacharya and he says, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by whom? Drishtadyumna. He could have said Drishtadyumna, but he's saying Drupada Putrena, the son of Drupada. Why? So, history is Dronacharya and Drupad. They both went to the same Gurukul when they were little. And there they were little, so they had friendship. They became good friends. So when they grew up and they were Drupad was leaving the Gurukul, so Drupad said, anytime you have any issue, you need anything, you just come to me, we are friends. So everything I have, half is yours. You just come. So Dronacharya went to his ashram, and since he's a Brahmin, he was poor, and later he married Kripi, who was sister of Kripacharya, and they had a son, Ashwatthama. So Dronacharya, when he was alone, he could live by little, no problem. But now he had a family, and especially he had the son. And the son would go out, play with other kids, and the other kids, and you know how kids are, playfully or either to teach him a lesson or something. What they did, they just put a paste of rice on his lips. Because they were drinking milk, and Ashwatthama had never drunk milk, so he wanted to drink milk. So they put some paste of rice on his lips. And he came back, and his mother asked, what did you have? What is this? And he said, I had milk. I drank milk. So Kripi went to her husband that your son wants to have milk, and so at least let's have a cow in the house so he can drink real milk. So Dronacharya, now he's a Brahman. Brahman means they can go anywhere for begging. So he remembered his friend Drupad. So he went to Drupad's king's palace. So Drupad asked him, who is it? And he sent the message that I am your friend Dronacharya from Gurukul. So Drupad met him in the assembly, and he said, do not call me your friend. Friendship is among equals. You are a poor Brahmin and I am a rich king, Kshatriya. They cannot be friendship. As a Brahmin, you have come, I'll give you whatever you want, but don't call me friend. Now that, as a Brahmin, he shouldn't have mind that, but he really took it to his heart. So Dronacharya came back. He did not ask for anything. But he did not go back to his house either. So he went to the forest. So in the forest, he saw these few princes. They were around this well, and the princes were playing with the ball, and the ball had fell down in the well. And they didn't know how to get the ball out. So Dronacharya went and asked, what is happening? So they said, oh, our ball fell in the well. And Dronacharya said, what kind of Kshatriyas you are? You don't know how to get the ball out of the well? He said, I'll show you. So he picked up few straws. So he chanted some mantra, threw one straw and it stuck in the ball. He chanted the other mantra and through that straw, it got stuck in the back of the first straw. And this is how he made a chain of straws. And in the end of that straw was a ball, and he brought out the ball. So these princes were the Kurus and the Pandavas. So they all were astonished. End of the day, they went to Bhishma Pitama and they told him, oh, we met this wonderful Brahman and he showed us how to take the ball out of the well. And Bhishma Pitama understood that this must be Dronacharya. So Bhishma Pitama came to Dronacharya and he asked them, why don't you teach these boys? art of military science, because Dronacharya knew this art. He had learned from his guru, Parashuram. So time passed. Dronacharya taught them everything, and as we studied, that Arjun was the best disciple of Dronacharya, very dear to him. So there was this time when they had to pay Guru Dakshina. So Dronacharya said, "Get me Drupad. Go and arrest him and bring him, defeat him in the battle and bring him to me." So first Duryodhan and his brothers went and they were defeated by Drupad. And then second, five Pandavas went and they defeated Drupad, and Arjun brought Drupad, captured him and brought him. And Dronacharya, when he saw Drupad captured, binded, and he said, "You are not even equal to my disciples. And you are talking about me being equal to you?" So he said, "But as our friendship said, I'll keep half of your kingdom. And I'll take the cow." And then with that cow, he came to his house. But now Drupad, being a Kshatriya, he was insulted. He was let go, but half of his kingdom was gone to Dronacharya, and that half of the kingdom was given to Ashwatthama to rule. Now Drupad got angry and he wanted revenge. So he did not go home, and he performed a sacrifice. He did tapas, he performed a sacrifice. And from that sacrifice, from the fire of sacrifice, two children came. So first was Drishtadyumna, son of Drupad, and second was Draupadi. So that's why Draupadi was known as Agni Janma. She appeared from the fire of sacrifice. And Drishtadyumna was born with only one purpose in mind, that he would kill Dronacharya. Now, when he was born, and they were born adults already. So when he was born, Drupad knew the best teacher in the world is Dronacharya. So he sent Drishtadyumna to Dronacharya to learn this art of military science. And Dronacharya knew the purpose of the birth of Drishtadyumna, to kill him. But still, as a Brahman, he could not deny. He taught him everything. And this is what Duryodhana is telling. You think you are a big acharya, you know everything. This is what you taught Drupad Putrena. And he has arranged all this military formation to kill you. And Drupad Putrena, when he says Drupad Putrena, means he wanted to incite the anger in Dronacharya that he is the son of Drupad, who insulted me so badly. So this is all politics going on, big time politics. And we'll study more later on. So this is the starting of Bhagavad Gita, but we'll see how it ends later. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Guruji, Suprabhat here. Namaste. So quick question on the first verse itself, right? When we say Dharma Khetre, Kurukshetre, Dharma Khetre means where the Pandavas were standing, and Kurukshetra means where the Kauravas were standing, or how do you difference between both the battlefield? You said it's a paddy field. Khetra means paddy field, right? So what does Dharma Khetra means here?
No. It's not where Pandavas. Dharamkshetra means Kurukshetra is Dharamkshetra, first of all. It's a place of pilgrimage. There were so many yagyas have happened there. Brahmaji also performed the yagya over there in Kurukshetra. It's a huge place of pilgrimage. And paddy field is it's a simile given. It's just like in a paddy field. Kshetra is also called a paddy field. Yes. So when we had to sow something, we had to take out something unwanted. So Krishna had to establish religion. So for that, irreligion had to be taken out. So Duryodhana and party represented irreligion.
But it's the same place, you know, they are referring to the same Kurukshetra as Dharmakshetra as well as Kurukshetra.
Yes, yes, yes. It is called Dharamkshetra because it is a place of pilgrimage. Otherwise, its name is Kurukshetra.
Okay.
And those who haven't been to Kurukshetra, I would invite you to please go. It's a wonderful place. ISKCON has a good temple over there, and there are so many other places to see in Kurukshetra. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, the question is from this. When the Krishna came, it was Treta Yuga. No, Dwapar.
Krishna, no. End of the Dwapar Yuga.
Dwapar, end of Dwapar. So, and he stayed here for 125 years.
Yeah.
125 years. And Kali Yuga is about 4 lakh years.
432,000 total time.
4 lakh, yeah, correct. So, whatever scripture we have, which Vyasdev wrote, we also heard that the effective use of dharma would be for another 10,000 years. After that, dharma will not be there. People will not be believing. Temple will not be there.
Yes, not dharma. I mean, places of pilgrimage will unmanifest. Ganga, Yamuna will unmanifest. Kaveri, Godavari, all these sacred rivers. Yes. So 10,000 years.
10,000 years. So let us say 10,000 years, which has to come, 5,000 years what here Vyasdev wrote. So total effective use of this scripture is around 15,000, 20,000 years. Is that the correct understanding?
For the general public, could be said that, but the scriptures will remain in the book form or in the oral form, because there will be sages, as we studied in Bhagavatam, and there will be sages in the forest or on the mountains, and they will start Satyuga when the time comes. So they will still have the scriptures.
Okay. All these scriptures will remain throughout 4,32,000. Kind of.
Yeah, in one form or the other. Yes.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. So any other question, comments? Okay, so I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.